Here's the truth. Most people don't realize toxins are those sneaky, and they're not in various obvious places. You don't need to live next to a landfill or smoke cigarettes to be carrying a toxic overload or toxic burden at the end of the day. Your oat milk might be full of glyphosate, right? Your couch, flame retardants. Your shampoo, endocrine disruptors. Your tap water, heavy metals, PFAS, pharmaceuticals. Even the receipts in your wallet, the ink, are coated in that BPA. So it's not about one exposure. It's about the total overload. And over time, that toxic overload can quietly push your body into dysfunction across multiple systems.
Welcome to Health Decoded, your number one source for real health information, with your hosts, Dr. Alessi and Matt Tack.
Hey, Health Decoded listeners. Dr. Alessi here. Let me ask you a serious question. Are you tired of waiting until something goes wrong to finally see a doctor? At Alessi Functional Health, we take a different approach, the right approach. We believe true healthcare isn't about chasing symptoms. It's about preventing them in the first place. That's why we created the Alessi Total Care program. This is a functional medicine-based membership that gives you proactive, personalized care year-round. You'll get access to comprehensive blood work and functional testing, custom doctor-grade nutraceuticals, deep discounts on labs, protocols, and follow-ups, as well as 24/7 direct access to your doctor, not just a 10-minute checkup that ends with another prescription. And here's the best part. As a Health Decoded listener, you'll get your first 3 months completely free when you sign up for an annual membership. That's on top of hundreds in savings already built into the program. This is your chance to take responsibility for your health and join a movement that's redefining what primary care should look like. Head on over to alessifunctionalhealth.com, click on our services tab, and go to Total Care. Learn more about this program and claim your exclusive podcast listener offer. Your health is your greatest asset. Let's protect it proactively. Welcome back to Health Decoded, your number one source for real health information. I'm your host, Dr. Alessi.
And your co-host, Matt Tack.
Awesome, man. Good to see you. Today we're going to have a really fun episode. We are diving into a topic that really flies under the radar in most conventional medical practice, but is quietly really at the root of many chronic health issues, and that is toxic overload. So just simply put, we live in a chemically saturated world. Our ancestors dealt with bacteria, viruses, maybe occasional parasite, but they weren't walking through these clouds of invisible industrial toxins 24/7 like we are today. And so we're exposed to over 80,000 chemicals, most of which have never really even been tested for long-term safety in humans, but have been embedded into the things we put on our body, the clothes we wear, the food we eat, right? And so we're breathing them, eating them, absorbing them. And for most people, their detox pathways are clogged. So they're overwhelmed, and sometimes they're even genetically impaired as well. And so this episode uncovers how hidden environmental toxins like mold, plastics, heavy metals, pesticides, parasites, and everyday chemicals can live undercover in your body for years, causing chronic fatigue, hormone issues, gut problems, and more. We're going to break down the symptoms and how to test and how to truly heal with functional medicine. So let's get into it.
I'm so excited to talk about this because it's like super real, right? Even breaking down soaps and various things that you're eating and putting into your body. So
That's right.
Let's break it down, the environmental side of toxins. So it's not just mold in your basement or mercury in your tuna, which are, a lot of the hot topic ones. Here's what we're really talking about. The mold and mycotoxins, right? So these toxic byproducts from mold species in various forms. So they can live in walls of HVAC systems, underlying floor, even in dry climates. So we're in Florida. These mycotoxins are neurotoxic, immunosuppressive, and endocrine disrupting. So these are the things that you need to really take a look at in terms of heavy metals. So lead in old pipes is one of them. That's something that you're going to see water coming into your house. So those old pipes, right? There's lead in those. Even in paint sometimes. Mercury from fish and dental fillings. So I had one of those, had that taken out, and actually, but those are, right? They used to use mercury in your dental fillings. Aluminum in deodorants. That's something I always check for now. Typically, those are going to be in the sprays, the gels. You're going to find the aluminum. In the white, you're not going to find nearly as much, but if you can get more of an organic, Suave is a good name brand that actually I use that doesn't have aluminum embedded into it. So, these metals interfere with the mitochondrial function and damage neurons and suppressive detox enzymes. So they can cross blood-brain barrier and bioaccumulate for decades without you even knowing it. So those are things that you just want to take a look at, just standard use type stuff, right? So as we aforementioned, that deodorant is something that you use every single day. Your toothpaste is stuff you use every single day. So check out if there's aluminum or any type of fillings that aren't more naturally based, right? So then you have plastics and endocrine disruptors. So let's dive into this a little bit. Chemicals like BPA. So the plastics that you have, a lot of times, like, I'm not sure if like IKEA, those plastics, I've really never checked, but like you like are storing your food containers. If they're not BPA free, then they have BPA in them, right? And so those can transfer over to the food that you're actually putting in those containers. So you want to look out for that, even in water bottles, various things. I'm not saying like not drink water. You just want to be sure that what you're putting your water into is a BPA free, right? So when the heating elements go through a dishwasher, that's something you want to look out for. Parabens are in food packaging and water bottles, cosmetic, and receipts, right? So they mimic estrogen and block testosterone. So if you want to look at, why men are coming down in testosterone, a lot of these are it's exactly this, right? So it's linked directly to hormonal imbalances, infertility, and obesity. I've seen a number of women specifically, once they dial in their nutrition, their infertility issue goes away. It's pretty wild to see the nature of the world we live in today, that it's through what we put into our mouth that actually can make us fertile and infertile, right? So pesticide and herbicides. So we're going to dig into this right here. Glyphosate, used in conventional agriculture and even in parks and lawns. So this is the chemical that disrupts your gut microbiome, impairs detox enzymes, and classified by the WHO as a probable human carcinogen. This is one of the reasons why I stopped putting chemicals on my lawn, right? Honestly, my lawn doesn't look like absolutely great, but like I would rather put my feet in that lawn rather than have my lawn looking absolutely spectacular, and then transferring that inside my house. So I actually think of those things. We used to put True Green and other pesticides on our lawn. That's not something I care about any longer, to be honest with you. If you're going to use something, you use something that's more naturally based, organic free. There's a lot of other things that you can use out of there than use it like a True Green service to put pesticides on your lawn. Because the moment you step in that, you're transferring it into your house. So you want to be cognizant of those things. So parasites is another thing. Most people think that parasites only affect people in developing countries, but they're more common than actually you think. From undercooked meat and parasites, there's aged meat, right, that comes into the grocery stores. So undercooked meat, contaminated water, pets, or even travel have parasites. They rob nutrients, disrupt gut dysfunction, and excrete toxic waste that essentially burdens your liver. Those are things you want to be extremely cognizant of, because parasites are a real thing in today's age. And we're going to go through some things. So we just want to highlight some of the things that you should look out for. And then we're going to, at the end of the episode, make sure you stay tuned to the end because we're going to show you actionable items of what you can do, right? So personal care products, your shampoo, deodorant, sunscreen, lotion, foundation, they often contain formaldehyde. One thing that I did not realize is that, I became addicted, and I like sharing everything. I became addicted to nicotine pouches, right? Nicotine pouches actually are nootropic, but what they do is they actually soak those in formaldehyde. So when you're putting those into your mouth, you're actually sucking on formaldehyde. So I stopped using those. I like people being transparent with people and letting know those are the things that I look out for. I'm like, well, I'm putting this in my mouth. I'm sucking up for formaldehyde. I can't talk about it and not live it, right? So, and the next thing you look out for is fragrances, a proprietary label hiding dozens of chemicals. And the last thing you want to look out for, PEGs, parabens, and triglycerin. These are absorbed through your skin and bypass liver filtration and go straight into circulation. So those are just some of the things that, in terms of oral digestions and things you put on your skin, but then there's also household cleaners and flame retardants. So think about dryer sheets, air fresheners, nonstick cookware, furniture, even kids' pajamas. They're coated in chemicals that have neurotoxic and endocrine disrupting and even carcinogenic effects that honestly, at the end of the day, hinder and disrupt the body's performance. So we need to think about these things in terms of what we're actually utilizing and how we're being educated on these. So now here's the kicker though, in all this. Toxins don't hit like a car crash, right? They're slow leak, invisible, persistent, and cumulative. They hijack. So first it's your brain, anxiety, insomnia, brain fog. Then it becomes hormones, low libido, irregular cycles, low T. Then it becomes your energy systems, your mitochondrial dysfunction. Then, last but not least, your gut lining and immune system, that leaky gut, autoimmunity. We're seeing a ton of those actually come through our clinic, right? So they do it so gradually that most people, they honestly, they're not realizing. So it happens over time until the symptoms are chronic, widespread, and confusing. Or they just take it as, hey, this is normal aging, right? So the National Institute of Environmental Health and Sciences says it best. Environmental exposure to synthetic and naturally occurring toxins plays a central role in the rise of chronic illness.
Wow.
So here's the final point. The modern human is under chemical assault every single day. And if you're not actively removing these toxins, you're accumulating them in your body. And at the end of the day, it keeps score. It's a game. So in this next segment, we're going to talk about signs and symptoms that might mean your body is in toxic overload. You might be surprised by how many boxes that actually check your lifestyle. So here are the warning signs about your toxicity. Let's paint the picture here first. You might be thinking, I don't work in chemical plant. I don't eat organic. I eat organic and I work out. I drink green juices every day. I'm good, right? Here's the truth. Most people don't realize toxins are those sneaky, and they're not in various obvious places. You don't need to live next to a landfill or smoke cigarettes to be carrying a toxic overload or toxic burden at the end of the day. Your oat milk might be full of glyphosate, right? Your couch, flame retardants. Your shampoo, endocrine disruptors. Your tap water, heavy metals, PFAS, pharmaceuticals. Even the receipts in your wallet, the ink, are coated in that BPA. So it's not about one exposure. It's about the total overload. And over time, that toxic overload can quietly push your body into dysfunction across multiple systems. So here we go. Let me walk you through what we commonly see in our clinic. And I have personally experienced at the end of the day. So I want to say I personally experienced these things.
Yep.
Because the reality is we're not going to get away from all these toxins. It's now what we do to disrupt them, right? So brain and mood symptoms, when your brain's detox pathways are backed up or your mitochondria is poisoned by your metals, mold, and chemicals, you feel it upstairs. Brain fog. I walk into a room and forget why I'm there, which that happens. but not every day. So when it's a common occurrence, right? Anxiety or sudden panic, especially out of nowhere. Memory lapses. I used to be so sharp. What's happening? You ask yourself. Depression or low motivation. Trouble falling asleep. It's a huge one. So here's a fact. Mold toxins are neurotoxic, meaning they target the brain. Mercury displaces zinc in the brain, and BPA alters neurotransmitters. So this stuff literally changes the way you think and then ultimately the way you feel. Here's the metabolic effect and energy disruption. Your mitochondria, the energy engines of your cells, your building block of your cells, are extremely sensitive to toxins. And when they get jammed up, you might notice fatigue that's not fixed by sleep, right? Weight loss resistance, even with clean eating. Thyroid dysfunction, that means that low T3 we've talked about often, right? Sluggish metabolism. Adrenal burnout. You're just getting weak, that 3 p.m. burnout every single day, right? Can't hold it together through an entire day. Wired but tired. And then blood sugar swings. You get shaky, hangry, or crash even after meals, right? And if your liver is overwhelmed, your body may intentionally hold on to fat because fat stores toxins. Your fat becomes a storage locker for stuff your liver can't just keep up with at all. So here's the immune and inflammatory problems. Toxic overloads puts the immune system in constant low-grade fight. Or worse, it turns against you. Autoimmune flares. Some things are Hashimoto's psoriasis. You have histamine issues, itchy, flushed, hives, reaction to wine or leftovers, right? Skin issues like eczema, acne, and rashes. Here's joint pain is a big one. You're hitting that mid-30s, 40s joint pain that moves around and feels just completely unexplained. Frequent illness or slow recovery process. So 70% of your immune system lives in your gut. When your gut barrier gets compromised by these toxins, you become reactive to everything. So let's dive into the gut and the toxins and the detox pathways, which are breaking up the cycle, right? So this is the exit ramp. And if you're not pooping, sweating, or draining, well, you're recirculating that garbage on a daily basis. So you could experience bloating or gas after meals, constipation or loose stools, new or increasing food sensitivities, chemical sensitivity, perfume, stores, cleaning supplies make you sick. Your liver congestion signs, pain under right rib cage, nausea or fatty meals, headaches, especially in the morning, or taking a long time just to wake up because you have elongated sleep cycles, right? Your liver has two detox phases, phase 1 and phase 2, and they both require nutrients and energy to function. So if you're nutrient deficient or you're chronically inflamed, your detox becomes like a clogged drain pipe. So think of that. We had those big old cast iron pipes at our house that we had to clean out. But over time, the rust built up, where the water only had a big 4-inch pipe, only had a dime-sized figure to go through at the end of the day. That's exactly what happens, right? When all these toxins never get decompressed and actually released. So I'm going to be brutally honest with you. Eating clean, taking supplements, hitting the gym, even sleeping 8 hours, and you're still inflamed or foggy or exhausted, doesn't mean you're not broken. You're probably just toxic at the end of the day. And here's the science to back this up. So from the Journal of Integrative Medicine, toxin accumulation impairs mitochondrial function, detoxification pathways, and immune balance, leading to multi-system dysfunction. So that's not alternative medicine. That's just reality medicine. It's not in your head. It's not in your cells. It's not in your liver. It's in your brain and hormones and skin. So up next, we'll talk about how we actually test for this at Alessi Functional Health in the functional medicine world. And no, we're not using like a guesswork scheme, right? We're running advanced tests that reveal what's really going on underneath the hood. So if this segment hit home, stay tuned. But here, first is a quick word from our sponsor.
This episode of Health Decoded is brought to you by Authentic Nutrition, the brand redefining what it means to fuel your body the right way. At Authentic Nutrition, they believe that what you put into your body matters. That's why every single product is crafted with clean, premium ingredients and dosed with maximum efficacy to ensure you're not just meeting your health goals, you're exceeding them. No fillers, no shortcuts, no gimmicks. Whether it's their advanced supplements for energy, recovery, or gut health, you can trust that what's on the label is exactly what's in the bottle. Authentic Nutrition delivers science-backed formulations that work as hard as you do. If you're tired of products that promise the world but don't deliver, it's time to make the switch to Authentic Nutrition. Elevate your health with transparency, quality, and results you can feel. Check them out today at AuthenticNutrition.com and use promo code Alessi15 to get 15% off. That's THENTIC Nutrition.com, promo code ALESSI15 to save 15% and take the first step toward real, lasting health. Authentic Nutrition, fuel your best self. Now back to the episode. All right, welcome back. Now, definitely, let's get into, the action steps. I think this is always the great part. You definitely touched on a lot of big things there, things that people have probably experienced from time to time. And I wanted to touch on something real quick. We test for leaky gut all the time in our clinic. And I think when you look up the stats online, right, it is not reflective of the truth. Most people, it's probably higher, right? Because I'd say it's almost 100% of people who have come in and we've suspected leaky gut, so we run a test, they have it. And so it's so common because, again, everything you just explained, all the things that we're putting in and taking into our body are just breaking down that gut, the gut barrier, right, and making it more permeable. So let's do this. Let's get functional. Let's get into how testing works and how we test for toxic load. And so you might be wondering, right? Okay, I have these symptoms. Now, how do I know if it is toxins at the root cause? Because the reality is your regular doctor is not looking for this. You could have mold in your sinuses. You could have mercury built up in the brain or even parasites in your gut. And your conventional labs could still come back normal. But normal doesn't equate to optimal. And it definitely doesn't mean clean. So that's where now functional medicine comes in. Because again, we don't guess, we test. And we often use a lot broader and more, diverse testing protocol to look for things that other medicine providers are not looking for. And inside our Total Care program, we use these advanced diagnostic tools that reveal what's lurking under the surface. So let's talk through here now our toxic burden testing, right? What does that look for? So one of the things we use is a urinary mycotoxin test. So this is basically the go-to for mold exposure. It's going to screen for dangerous mold toxins like ochratoxin, which can disrupt immune and kidney function, aflatoxin, which is a potent carcinogen, and gliotoxin, which is an immune suppressor that can hide deep in your tissues, right? So it's very difficult to pin this one out. So here in Florida, very common if you've ever lived in a water-damaged home, a dorm or an office, or maybe a hurricane-prone area, right? We just experienced this last year. Houses getting flooded. If the mold is not remediated, that can build up, and then now that's accumulating inside of you. And it gets into the air ducts, and it is tough to get rid of. The next one we look at is what's called a GPL tox, basically an environmental pollutants panel. And so this is going to check your urine for everyday chemical toxins, things like phthalates, which are in plastics and fragrances, BPA, which we talked about in the receipts, the water bottles. Basically, if your plastic is touching your food, you're getting BPA, unless it's BPA free. And oftentimes the labels lie too. They've found ways to get around telling you if it's BPA free or not. Things like parabens, which are in lotions and shampoos. It also looks for things like styrene and xylene, which are air pollutants that come from like solvents and insulation in homes. And then things like, you go to the gas station, you breathe in those gasoline fumes. You can build up things inside your body as well. So basically, this test is going to tell us what are you absorbing from your products and your air, and whether or not your detox pathways are keeping up too. Another one, and this is one that we run a lot, is a heavy metals test. So we can use either urine or hair analysis. I like the hair because it's stored there for a long time. And so the hair is going to tell me if this is something that's been accumulating. It's going to look for the big ones: mercury, lead, arsenic, cadmium. Again, these are things that are in everyday stuff, right? Like some of the bigger fish is going to have a lot of mercury in it, right? Things like tuna. So making sure we're buying like low mercury tuna. Lead, which is in old paint. Arsenic it's in groundwater and tap water if you're drinking just basic tap water. And then cadmium is if if you have exposure to smoke, right? And so even low levels of this, like it doesn't have to be a lot, can block enzymes and disrupt your hormones and then cause downstream effects from that. Another one that is very common for us to run is what's called an organic acids test, or an OAT test. So this basically is like a metabolic footprint, and we can use this for metabolic issues as well, not just for toxicity, but it's a great combo for both of those because it's going to reveal if there's fungal or candida overgrowth. It will reveal if there's mitochondrial damage, oxalate issues, neurotransmitter imbalances, or if you're depleted in glutathione, which is basically your body's master detoxifier. And so this test is going to show us whether your cellular engines are running or if they're misfiring, right? And then, another one, I'd say this one is a little bit more of a pricey test. So people often, if we don't have to run it, we won't, but it is a fantastic test for getting to the bottom of it, is a GI map stool test. So basically you collect a stool sample and it is going to 100% tell you if you have parasites, if you have pathogenic bacteria. Very common one is H. pylori. See that all the time. Fungal markers like candida. If you have secretory IgA, which is basically like an overload of the IgA immune component in your gut, or if you have liver enzymes in the stool. And so this will tell us if we have a backup going on. And a big one here for us to want to run this test would be like if someone has chronic fatigue, they have skin issues like eczemas or psoriasis, histamine problems, which is like those sensitivities to chemicals, and then food sensitivities as well. So you have to check what's brewing in the gut, and then this gives us 100% array of what's going on. And then one that I can't say we run this one a lot, but it is a cool test, is a VCS test, or a visual contrast sensitivity. It's a non-invasive eye test. It screens for biotoxin exposure, neurological effects, poor oxygen delivery to the brain, basically some of those early warning signs for a toxin-triggered brain inflammation. I will say that the main ones we're going to use is the urine toxin, the stool test, and the OAT test. Those are probably non-negotiables if we can sense that maybe there's toxicity. And then, beyond the labs, right? What else can we do? Because testing isn't just about looking at the blood and the urine, right? It's about the story. And so we also want to take a history intake. Have you ever lived near a farm? Do you use a lot of personal care products? Have you ever had mercury fillings that maybe were removed, right? When they remove them, a lot of times that kicks that mercury into the bloodstream. Where have you worked? What have you been exposed to throughout your life? And then also, like, there's some really cool home tests you can use to test your home for mold, the dust, and also water, right? What's the water contaminant look like? So, I don't want us to like freak people out. That's not the point of this. We're not trying to scare people. But we're trying to let you know that you need to figure out what your body is burdened with if you have these symptoms, right? Because when you identify the source, now you have an idea you can treat the root. So not just the symptoms. There's a quote here from Frontiers in Public Health in 2021, and it said, testing and individualizing detox plans improves outcomes in patients with chronic fatigue, autoimmunity, and metabolic disease. Basically confirms that the root of those diseases comes from toxic overload, right? Or can come from toxic overload. And so again, that's why we test. That's why functional medicine works. truly, functional medicine is real medicine, right? Throwing throwing medicine at something just to try to cover it up, that's not medicine. That's lazy. That's, a system that's been built to generate money for an industry that is realistically just failing. So functional medicine is, how does your body get back to equilibrium and actually work for itself? So now we know what to look for symptom-wise. You explained that. Great, Matt. Now we know what tests we can run and obviously what to do in the next step. Now, how do we heal, right? How do we take that information that we've gained with testing, with symptoms, with history, and then turn it into a healing platform? And so, again, here's the good news, right? Your body is built to heal. It's a healing machine, right? You cut your hand or your arm, it's going to heal. It just does. So it's not that it's broken, it's just overloaded. And so it can't adequately do what it's meant to do. And so you have to create the right conditions. And that's why removal is the first R in our protocols. Always remove what's getting in the way. So this is kind of I wanted to keep it simple here, but the 4 phases of true detoxification. So number 1, again, remove the source, because you can't detox what you keep being exposed to, right? That'd be like trying to keep taking things in and get things out of your house, right? You keep taking new stuff in, but you're trying to get rid of things. It's clutter. So here's how you can clean up your environment. Starting with the air, using purifiers, things with like those HEPA and activated carbon filters. I even more so like the ones that have the ozone and that can break down the pollutants rather than just kicking them back into the air. Water is a big one. So drinking clean water is huge. Using like a reverse osmosis or those countertop Berkey filters are great, because tap water in most developed cities and places is going to be pretty bad, full of fluoride and all kind of chemicals. And then products, switching to like non-toxic cookware, natural cleaners, and the beauty products and things, as well as food, eating organic whenever possible, trying to avoid processed foods and seed oils, and then the makeup and the beauty products. You don't have to be perfect, right? What do we always say? Be consistently good rather than occasionally perfect, right? And because every bit is going to help empty that toxic bucket. Now, step 2, okay, you've removed. Now, how do we support the drainage and detox that your body's trying to do? It just needs some help, because you can't detox unless your body can drain. So we focus heavily on opening up what's called your emunctory system, which is basically your liver, your kidneys, your colon. These are the organs that eliminate waste. This is the lymphatic system as well, often overlooked, as well as your skin. There's a really cool practice called dry brushing, where basically you get like a bristle brush that's kind of hard, and you brush your skin towards the lymph systems, like towards the armpits, towards the groin, and it is pushing the lymph from the skin and getting that. You should get kind of red from it, right? It's because you're flushing things into the system. Other tools that we can use are things like binders. This is always going to be part of some of our functional medicine protocols. Things like chlorella, activated charcoal, humic and fulvic acid are great ones that we use a lot, because they're pretty gentle, but they're going to capture and push things out, as well as supporting the liver with milk thistle, glutathione, NAC, lymph drainage, right? Like we just talked about, dry brushing, rebounding, or those vibration plates that we have in our clinic. Whenever someone's doing a detox protocol, they're going to come and use these power plates, these vibration plates, which is going to stimulate that lymph drainage. And then sweating, infrared sauna, hot yoga, Epsom salt baths. Because remember, detox doesn't equal a juice cleanse, right? That's not what it looks like. It's about opening up these drainage pathways, mobilizing and eliminating toxins in a safe, supported way. We actually discussed this heavily in episode 8. So go back and listen to that one. It will further kind of explain what we're talking about here and go tandem with this. The next step after you're supporting the detox is rebuilding your cellular health. Now, once the junk is out, let's talk about how we rebuild from the inside out. Mitochondrial support, focusing on that with things like CoQ10, PQQ for better energy, supporting the gut with probiotics, gut lining nutrients, parasite cleanses when needed. Nervous system reset, something you talk about all the time, HRV training, right? Breath work. How do we support the vagus nerve with things like cold exposure? This is going to get that body back toward a state of rest and digest. And then hormone rebalance. Well, how are we using adaptogens or, test-based protocols, obviously based on the labs, to rebalance the hormones. This is usually the phase where people start to feel more like themselves. They're going to have more energy, maybe skin's clearing up, less brain fog. And again, it's not magic, it's physiology. And then the last part, and probably the thing that we do that other providers don't do, is the lifestyle medicine component. This is where we stand out because we take it further than just, hey, do this, take this. It's like, no, how do we focus on what you're doing on a daily basis and really guide you through how to optimize your lifestyle, right? So, because the truth is your daily habits are either loading your toxic burden or lightening it. And so getting morning sunlight, blocking blue light at night, resetting that circadian rhythm, because recovery and drainage happens at night. There's a concept in Chinese medicine that 3 a.m. is really where your liver is kicking, and it is hitting hard. Oftentimes people on a detox, or if they're struggling with liver detox, are going to be waking up around that time of night every night. Like, what's going on? That's a good sign. Prioritizing deep sleep, reducing your digital overload, right? Reducing your stress and EMFs, and then making the low toxic living basically part of your life, right? You have to adopt these things. And so it's not like you just do it once and then you're good. It's like, no, this has to become part of your daily life. And so just real quick here, before we start wrapping things up, there's a great quote from the American Journal of Lifestyle Medicine in 2020. They said, ongoing detoxification support and environmental hygiene are foundational pillars in long-term chronic disease recovery. So basically, you're healing from some kind of chronic disease. You have to incorporate the lifestyle and environmental component, or else you're just going to end up right back in that position. Your environment matters, your habits matter, and ultimately that's, you matter. So take ownership of that, make changes that you need, and then seek help when necessary. So you weren't born toxic, although some people maybe were born predisposed, right? Or their early years, but over time, the world we live in, it just fills that bucket up with the plastics, the molds, the metals, and the stress. And so functional medicine gives us the tools to like pinpoint and identify. And then Total Care, which is what we've created within our office, gives you the map to fix it, right? And so it's not just about cleansing your body. It's about reclaiming your energy, your clarity, your vitality, and ultimately your life. And so if you would ever like to learn more about how we help diagnose, reverse, heal toxicity and chronic disease within our Alessi Total Care program, go to alessifunctionalhealth.com, schedule a consultation with me or one of our providers. Let's create a personalized plan for your lifelong health. Listeners of this podcast are always going to get an exclusive discount and price reductions on all of our protocols and lab testing. So be sure to mention where you heard about us.
And as always, if you found value in today's show, please like, subscribe, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. This is how we grow this message and change more lives. Want to get in touch with us or be featured on an episode? Email us at ask@alessifxhealth.com. If you just want to know a little bit more about us, go to alessifxhealth.com, sign up for our newsletter, and check out our resources page to learn more about our approach to nutrition and cutting-edge therapies.
Awesome, man. Thank you again for tuning in to Health Decoded, where we break down science, bust the myths, and help you take control of your health naturally. Until next time, stay curious, stay empowered, and remember, your health is in your hands.
Thank you for tuning in to Health Decoded, where we break down the truth about all things health and empower you to take charge of your well-being. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. For more resources and personalized support, visit us at alessifunctionalhealth.com and sign up for our newsletter. To hear your questions answered live on the show, send them to ask@alessifxhealth.com. That's ask@alessifxhealth.com. Until next time, stay curious, stay empowered, and remember, your health is in your hands.